I was young, joyful, and a little shy. That's how Valliere would always begin when she told her story. Not that she told it often. It wasn't the kind of tale that people gathered around to hear, not at first. It wasn't filled with great battles or daring escapes. It was softer, quieter, like the first light of dawn slipping through the trees. She had always been the girl who smiled but never spoke too loudly, the one who laughed with her friends but hesitated before stepping into the center of attention. There was warmth in her heart, a steady glow, but she never quite knew how to let it shine. Still, life had a way of pushing even the quiet ones into the light. One autumn evening, with the sky painted in hues of amber and violet, Valliere found herself standing at the edge of something new. A choice, a journey, a moment that would change everything. Would she step forward, or let the world pass her by? Valliere's heart pounded as she stood at the crossroads. The worn cobblestone path before her stretched into the unknown, lined with trees swaying gently in the evening breeze. Behind her, the familiar warmth of home beckoned, a place where she was safe, where she knew her place. But something stirred inside her, a longing she couldn't quite name, a whisper of adventure, of possibility. She took a breath, wrapping her arms around herself. What if I fail? What if I'm not ready? Then a voice, soft but certain, rose within her. What if you soar? With that thought, she lifted her chin, took one step forward, and didn't look back. The cobblestone path felt uneven beneath Valliere's steps, but she pressed on. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and distant rain. Shadows stretched long as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world in golden twilight. She had no plan, only the quiet certainty that she couldn't stay where she was. The road ahead was unfamiliar, and yet something about it felt right. A rustling in the trees made her pause. She wasn't alone. "Hello?" she called softly, her voice barely louder than the wind. Silence. Then, a flicker of movement. A figure stepping from the trees, cloaked, hooded, and watching her with unreadable eyes. Valliere's breath caught. Was this the beginning of something wonderful or something dangerous? She had taken the first step. Now there was no turning back. Valliere's fingers tightened around the strap of her satchel as the cloaked figure stepped closer. The wind stirred their hood, but their face remained hidden in shadow. "You walk alone at dusk," the stranger said, their voice low and measured. "Not many choose this road." Valliere swallowed. I needed to." A pause. Then the figure tilted their head slightly. Brave or foolish? She didn't know what to say to that. The silence stretched between them until the stranger reached into their cloak. Valliere tensed. A small silver pendant dangled from their fingers, glinting in the fading light. "Take this," they said. "It may guide you when the path is unclear." Hesitantly, Valliere extended her hand. The pendant was cool against her palm, its surface etched with delicate patterns, stars and swirling lines like a map to something unknown. She looked up, but the stranger was already turning away, vanishing into the trees as swiftly as they had appeared. Valliere exhaled, clutching the pendant. The road ahead felt even more uncertain now. But deep in her chest, something had changed. She wasn't just walking into the unknown anymore. She was meant to. Valliere held the pendant tightly, tracing its swirling patterns with her thumb. A strange warmth pulsed beneath her fingers, almost like a heartbeat. She shivered but pushed the feeling aside. "It's just a trinket." She turned back to the road, but her feet refused to move. A sudden weight settled over her limbs like invisible hands pressing down. Her breath quickened. Then, her hand lifted on its own. The pendant gleamed in the moonlight, and before she could react, her fingers curled around it like a vice. "Walk." The word was not her own, yet it echoed inside her skull. Her legs obeyed without hesitation. Step after step, she moved forward, but not by choice. Her body was no longer hers to command. Fear tightened in her chest. She tried to stop, to turn back, but her muscles wouldn't listen. The path wound deeper into the trees, the darkness thickening around her. Somewhere in the distance, a voice whispered, "Good, keep going." The stranger. Valliere's heart pounded. She had been meant to take this path, but not for herself. She was being led. Valliere's pulse hammered, but she didn't resist. The fear remained, but something deeper stirred beneath it. Curiosity. What am I being led to? The pendant's warmth spread up her arm, soothing, guiding. She allowed her steps to fall in rhythm with its unseen command, no longer trying to pull away. The path twisted through the trees, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and distant rain. The whispering voice returned, clearer this time. "Good, you are willing." She didn't answer, only kept walking. The trees parted ahead, revealing a clearing bathed in silver moonlight. At its center stood a stone archway, ancient and weathered, its surface etched with the same swirling patterns as her pendant. Her hand moved on its own, raising the pendant toward the arch. The symbols pulsed with light, and a faint hum filled the air. Valliere felt something shift inside her. Not fear, not hesitation, but acceptance. Step through, and she did. The world blurred, a rush of wind, a sensation like falling. Then silence. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in the forest she had arrived. But where? Valliere stood frozen at the castle's threshold, her fingers tightening around the pendant. The stranger's eyes burned like dying embers, watching her with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. Yet she did not turn away. "You have come at last," the figure repeated, stepping closer. Their voice was deep, smooth, carrying the weight of centuries. "Who are you?" Valliere asked, though a part of her already knew the answer. The stranger smiled, sharp, knowing. "I am the one who called you." The pendant throbbed in her hand, its heat matching the slow, deliberate beat of her own heart. Valliere exhaled shakily. She had been led here, guided by something beyond her understanding. But now, standing before this ancient being, she realized the truth. She had never been lost. She had been claimed. The vampire extended a hand, fingers pale as moonlight. "Come, Valliere, it is time." She hesitated only for a moment. Then, with one final glance at the open gates behind her, the path that once led to a life she no longer belonged to, she reached forward. Her fingers touched his. The gates groaned shut behind her, sealing her fate, and the darkness welcomed her home.